Yes, actually. Yeah, yes. As you go, you're thinking of Elby. That's where they have the train rides.
Well, no, going up by that store up there, if you go a little farther, at one point years ago, now this is probably 20-some years ago, there was a guy that started bringing old steam trains in there, and he, had a couple of them sitting there, and he was going to do something, and then I heard either he died or he went bankrupt or something.
Oh, well, the only thing we got through, years ago, this was a logging area. I mean, in a real sense, we didn't even have a Highway 410, in the early part of the last century, 100 years ago. It actually was a road that came up here and stopped at Greenwater. There was no continuation on, over the pass. And running parallel to it was a train track. So they actually, all the logging was done via rail, from up around here. They would use their equipment to get the logs on, the carriers and bring it back down. So the only sign of any kind of train here is that one property actually purchased the caboose and has it on the property as one of the cabins.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Nice, beautiful area.
It is. It's. I'm attracted not only to, well, obviously, there are a number of factors keeping me here. Is all the things that happened after I talked to Barb, and of course I've been on your program before and really kind of got into some of those experiences of how the interaction started almost immediately, the stuff that was happening to me. And then, of course, I really got to know the people around here and kind of like-minded in a lot of ways. I just really hate to part from this place. I still go back and forth between my home and Tacoma and all, but there's a lot of incentive for me to come up here all the time.
Well, it would be. I mean, no offense. I lived in Tacoma, many years up near Broadway or Baltimore Street. Yeah, Baltimore. And
yeah.
And you know what? One day I was in my bedroom, and my bedroom window got shattered out. And then I looked in the wall, and there was a big hole in it, and we had a drive-by shooting. And, they decided to hit my bedroom window, which the bullet, according to the police, was maybe, if I would have been not laying down, I would have been probably dead. But they also blew out a whole bunch of car windows. And I told my wife the next day, hey, we're going to move away. And that's exactly what I did.
Wow. That's amazing about you just mentioned that street, because when I first moved to Washington, I actually lived on North 42nd in Baltimore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, up closer to Ruston, Yeah,
I was pretty much where what's that youth center?
South end of town?
Well, where the youth center is, the Boys and Girls Club.
Oh, yeah, okay, yep.
Yeah, just right down from there. So now, did she see how often did she see this ape creature? Was it a one-time thing, or did she see it multiple times, or did she see other ones?
Well, I think, she saw this one. And then she had an experience with seeing the Bigfoot. And as a matter of fact, she was able to get an artist guide. She didn't have a picture or anything, but you don't see something like that and not forget it. So she has an artist rendering of that she has, and it's got a very, very narrow brow in the head and everything like that. So very humanoid, but very, very different, And the other experience, from that point forward, it's not really seeing anything. And she has seen something jump out a couple of times, but in the dark. And that's been my experience, too, because I've had at least about 5 different encounters, with a couple of times with an adult and 3 times with a juvenile.
Oh, wow.
Okay, where I've actually saw it, And it's the second encounter she had to do with, she heard some stick knocks, and it sounded like they were she'd hear a stick knock in one corner of the forest, and then she'd hear a stick knock in another corner, and I think there was three different corners. But what it was about was the way the Bigfoots were trying to communicate with each other. It had to do with probably rounding up the elk, or had something to do with the elk. Okay, trying to catch the elk or something. Not really sure. But so she decided, well, I'm going to go ahead bang on the tree too. So she started doing it.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden, the different places where she heard stick knocks, she started hearing noises of these 3 different ones rushing in toward her position. And it wasn't a pleasant experience because she got something in her mind about it, and I wish I could tell the story directly. I'm just trying to go off memory, so I hope Barb will I'll apologize to her if I don't get this straight. Something told her that they let her know in no uncertain terms they didn't appreciate her confusing them by banging on the tree. And that was probably the last time she did that.
Well, you know, it's funny. I used to, like, when I was young, me and my parents, we'd go camping a lot, like in Idaho, Washington, and all that stuff. And, here I'd be in the tent at night, right? And you'd hear, like, somebody banging, something against a tree. And you'd hear it, and then you'd hear it at another location. I never in my mind, associated that might be Bigfoot. I didn't even know what a Bigfoot was that back then. But, that's quite common because even Michael Hall, this last time they were at Mount Adams, they were hearing that quite a bit around their campsite at night.
Oh, yeah, and I've been on multiple campouts, like in the Blue Mountains, where I'd get up and it was 5 o'clock in the morning, and, we knew the situation there. I go out and I'd hear this gigantic, one single knock that just echoed all over the place. And it was basically the adults were calling in. I think the adults were calling in the young ones because you had a large group there, and one of the members of the group had a direct contact with one of the Sasquatch, who it just seemed like there was a congregation of them there. So the young ones were kind of coming in close to camp, and we put out the little gifting areas, and the young ones, I was looking down, and a car was coming up, and I was looking down where the gifting area was. All of a sudden, like little Christmas tree lights with their little red eyes shining in the night, just scattering all over the place. And it was very bizarre.
Was it quite a few of them?
Oh, yeah, probably about 6 or 7 of them.
Oh, wow. You're brave. I'll tell you, I'd be either locked in the car or driving in that car.
No, I don't have the fear anymore. I've never had the fear. I know we had talked about this too, and
I know.
You've had, it's kind of like you can't judge it by the one experience sometimes.
Well,
so I think there's the good and bad, and if you get the one that's traumatic all the time, then you think they're all like that, and that's not the case.
Well, I'll tell you, mine was. I'll tell you, I never want to go through that again.
You don't want to go out in the woods and camp anymore, do you?
I haven't been out in the woods at all, and since that happened, it's since the early 2000s. You couldn't get me. I remember afterwards, my wife and my couple of kids that were still living home, let's go camping. I go, no, let's go to a motel.
Uh-huh. Well, I had my hesitations with camping out. I mean, one of the best things that happened was because I really didn't even camp out with kids and everything when I was they were growing up and everything. It was just, unless it was a very secured park or something. I mean, with other campers. I had a fear of going out in the woods at night too. I talk about something that's even worse than just walking in the woods. And I'm thankful that with my time up here in the last 7 years, 6 or 7 years, that I've pretty much got over a lot of my fear about just simply walking in the woods, or I usually need to have someone with me, but I don't hesitate to walk at night into the woods. I mean, I'll have a flashlight with me that I'll shine down on the ground, and I don't know, there's just safety in having someone else with you. And I think it's still a smart idea. You can have a pet or a dog with you or another person, because that dissuades. It isn't the Bigfoots I'm worried about as much as I am just animals in general.
Yeah.
That might be preying on people.
Well, around here it'd be cougar and mountain lions, wouldn't it?
Oh, we have them occasionally. Once in a blue moon, they have them up here.
Oh, yeah.
So, but yeah, it's. I would say I've really evolved quite a bit in my thinking, and there's a lot of it's not just my thing. It's just the over-the-top stuff that happens. I mean, it'd be one thing if I was get on a program like this and say, yeah, I had an experience. I saw a Bigfoot running, and boy, that's all I'm going to talk about because that was the only experience I ever had. And I'm going to try to say every which way that it loose, but it just, for me, it was rapid-fire experiences that went from the seeing the Bigfoots, and then finally interacting with one, directly. From not face to face, that would make me pass out, but at least from about 100 feet away, in a comfortable distance. And my only time that I was going to try to make contact was in my yard when a few of them decided to hang out in the little wood strip outside my fenced area to watch the neighbor's TV from the backyard. And I noticed they were doing that, and because the adult kept turning around, and of course their eyes were shining. They were luminous, in the night. I mean, it wasn't really light outside. It was a new moon, and the eyes would glow in a reddish gold color. And I looked over there, and I kept seeing that, and I'm saying to myself, I walked over by the edge of my logs, and, hey, you guys, why don't you come on over here? I really like to meet you guys. And the guy looked back a couple of times, and then adult finally decided to take me up my offer and started walking. You could actually see him kind of moving across the wood line there, and he got to the other end of the logs about 20 feet away. I mean, it's probably about 30 feet. And so I'm facing him from the other end of the logs that are laying in my yard, and he's on the other side, and I see these two eyes just staring at me. And then I guess he decides to jump up on the logs and walk along the top of the logs, and now these eyes are way up high. And as he gets closer and closer to me, the eyes not only are way up high, the left and the right eye start separating out further and further apart, letting me know that although I don't see a body, I'm getting a pretty good idea how big the head is, as well as the rest of the body. And I let him get up to and he did it really slowly. He wasn't aggressively coming at me. Didn't make a noise. And but after got up to about 15 feet, looking down at me, and I finally I chickened out basically because I knew this wasn't going to happen. I mean, I should have just went ahead and just tried to shake his hand, or if I extended my hand out, if he would have done that. But I looked up and I said, look at the time. I'd really like to stick around, but I got to check it out and have an excuse. And so I said, you're still here. I'll be right back. And I jumped in my car and drove down the road. And he, of course, by the time I get back, he was gone. It wasn't just him. It was or her, whoever, that really, but the children were gone too.
How big and how much did it weigh roughly?
Oh, well, the adults can be 11, 12 feet.
Oh, wow.
Tall. You're talking about some massive muscles too, so they got the energy. It wouldn't be uncommon, 600-700 pounds, at that size. Yeah. And they got a pretty good, the span of their walking, can encompass almost 5 feet across, whereas we humans generally about 2.5 feet from when a steady pace walking, between 1 foot to the next, about 2.5 feet. They can do it about 5 feet.
That's kind of scary. Did you notice any odor or anything? Because I know when I had my encounter, I noticed a real strong urine type of smell. Yep. Bad.
Yeah, actually, that's reported by a lot of people. They do, and there is this emanation of kind of a garbagey, sewery type of smell. It's very characteristic. And I think it's a glandular excretion, that they'll put out, and much like what skunks do, with their own particular deal as a defense mechanism. I personally didn't smell anything from it because I don't think I evoked fear in them or any reason why they needed to cause me to go away. So that was never my experience. However, some of our party, with Barb and our group, actually had smelt that before in some of their walks and things. Until one of our campouts, and I had a tent down below on a lower